Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Sara.
And I'm Amy.
And we have a lot to discuss, and we are going to get right into it with WSL, actually a little more NWSL, a lot of Champions League, and a lot of international. It's a massive week. It has not slowed down despite there being no NWSL games. So we're going to do it, but of course, to kick it off, it's the fantasy update. I think you know how I'm doing. I was going to ask you if you know how I'm doing, but I think you already saw.
Yeah, it doesn't look very good for you.
I got 75 points this past week. That is not good for anybody who doesn't know. I did beat Allie, who only got 30-something points, because I'm assuming they didn't set their lineup, but being on vacation is not an excuse, Allie. Not an excuse.
They didn't listen to the podcast last week where you reminded people.
Clearly, where I reminded everybody. I did listen, and I did not set my lineup when I heard that reminder. So the good news is that I have now leapfrogged over Allie in the standings. The bad news is that I'm in the bottom 30. I think that's generous. I think I'm in the bottom 25. I just said 30 to make it sound a little better, of like 100 plus people. But you know what? Just like Villa, there's room to grow.
Yeah, you're in a relegation battle down there.
I think I am, yeah. All right, so speaking of Villa and the WSL, let's get into it. We have to kick it off with what we're calling the game of the week. There could have been a lot of games of the week, honestly. There were multiple games that warranted being discussed and us diving into, but we have to do it for so many reasons. The Manchester Derby. Manchester is blue, everybody, as City took it 3-1 in a game that featured some terrible defense, a red card, and just a lot of oh my God moments, I guess we can say. How are you feeling? How are you doing?
Well, you broke my heart by saying Manchester is blue. But I'm not feeling super happy about the result or the performance, to be honest. I didn't think it was a great Manchester United display. I was happy for the record Manchester United attendance, 43,615 at Old Trafford. So that was nice to see the fans come out. And I think that the team didn't really give a display that the fans had come out for, but it was a fun opening to the game, I can say that. I don't think United started particularly well, but we did take the lead on a penalty, which was a penalty. Greenwood had her hand away from her body. So
yeah, let's get into it, because there's a lot to talk about on both sides, but possibly just more to talk truly, and I'm not being biased just because you're a United fan, which I'm sure you know well. I do think there's more here to discuss about United, and maybe not in a positive way, actually. So let's start with United, and then we'll come on to City, because there's plenty there too. But yeah, you said it wasn't the best performance. I'd go right to it was a really poor performance from United across the board. I thought tactically, I thought all the way to mentally and emotionally. At the end of the game, City's down, players in United still can't find a way to attack, and that is both tactics and emotion. So across the board, I really thought from minute 0 through the 90-something minute, United just couldn't get going, and I have my reasons for why I think that is the case, but I'm curious to hear from you.
Yeah, I think it's accurate. I think, when you step out in front of that many fans at Old Trafford, I mean, these players are now experienced. They've done this now. This is not new for them, but it's still an occasion, and sometimes the occasion can be overwhelming, and you play the occasion and not the game. So I think there was a little bit of that, a touch of some poor defensive decisions for Man United.
Just a touch, a sprinkling.
To concede 2 goals in under a minute is like mind-blowing.
And 2 goals, mind you, these are not the same 2 goals, but also conceding 2 goals off of pure defensive errors, I think, is something we really need to talk about. For some reason, United decided to play a little bit like City and really wanted to play out of the back really badly this game, and to their detriment. There were 2 times, one with Katie Zellum and one with, I believe it was Mai Letizier, that ended up in goals for City. And you look at the scoreline 3-1, and you look at how 2 defensive errors or offensive errors on the defensive end, however you want to phrase it, it was an error by a defender, led to goals. And good on City for capitalizing on that. But you have to look at that as United. And I mean, that is painful.
Yeah, and I think that from defensive errors where Kelly was just destroying Blundell on that side of the pitch. The first goal came from that. It came from Kelly attacking down that side, cutting it back to Rord, who was wide open, and just flashed a shot in, and Earps didn't see it. But to concede a goal so quickly after that, I mean, it was a great finish from Hemp. Don't get me wrong, but Zellum is the captain, and she is not going to be pleased with herself on that one. She's not going to be happy. I mean, as a central midfielder, you don't have that time, that luxury to take those poor touches in those areas. I thought the defenders kind of did well to close off Bunny Shaw before she could get the shot off, but yeah, I mean, Katie Zellum won that one back. She really will. It was not good play from her being the captain. You know, she really needed to just settle them down after that. We just conceded. Let's settle it back down again. Let's not do anything silly before halftime. And boom, we're 2-1 down before the break when we should have been winning. We should have been winning by 2 goals. To be fair, we had a lot of chances to score on the counter-attack.
We can talk about that. I think you should have had 1 goal by halftime. I don't think 2, but I mean, yeah, the defensive error for the Lauren Hemp goal, and then obviously the defensive error that led to the 3rd goal by Bunny Shaw. But you have to also give credit to Lauren Hemp. I mean, she absolutely buried that. And Bunny Shaw, we were just talking about, hadn't scored yet in the WSL. Here we are. I'm sure you did call it. You said, I hope that she does. You brought it up.
Massive,
and you said,
massive
I hope she
eye
doesn't
roll.
score her
Like massive eye rolls.
first one against United. It wasn't because of you, though.
I think it might have been, though, to be honest, because I did say I hope she doesn't score in the Manchester derby this weekend.
I do feel like we should talk about United's offense, because while there were defensive errors, it wasn't like it was also pretty on the offensive end. And I feel like I've been one to, when people say Ella Toone hasn't been performing, I've been very defensive of her. This game was not her best game, and I'm not putting all of like United's offensive woes on Ella Toone, but I do feel like it's worth calling out that I felt like Mallard and JC were the only ones creating for United. It was just like, how much can those two do together before they have to pass it off? And anytime the ball landed at Ella Toone's foot, the attack just died. I think I texted you this and then was like, oh, maybe this is a spoiler. But it just died anytime it was at her foot. And I think it really hurt the flow for United because they couldn't find it.
Yeah, I think that there was a couple of occasions where we played through balls to her and she didn't have the pace to beat the defender and then didn't make a smart decision with the ball afterwards, and it was wasteful. But yeah, I do agree that JC and Mallard were our biggest attacking threats, and we should have been 2 goals up because JC was through and she took one too many touch instead of squaring it to Paris earlier, and Paris has got a tap in there. And then it does look like the ball's gone out of play, and JC then scores from that. Now, the interesting thing is, if we have VAR and if we have goal line technology that, you know, is enabled at Old Trafford, obviously, then we can make a more informed decision, but they're not using those technologies in the WSL. So we don't really know. Did the ball go fully over the line? It looks like it might have, but from a different angle, who knows? Anyway, we're kind of splitting hairs.
No matter what, that was beautiful. And JC, I mean, for her to hit that angle, she was literally on the end line and somehow was able to curve that into the goal. I wanted that to be a goal just because that was absolutely stunning. But like I said, mainly that was coming from her individual effort. And that's really just what United had on that day.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of cohesiveness. There wasn't a lot of attacking patterns of play that threatened City. Yeah, we didn't look like a unit that was going to threaten them, other than those few chances we had in the first half. And equally as disappointing when they went down to 10 that we didn't do anything either. It was kind of just like, okay, well, City just bunkered in and we didn't have any nous to break them down. We didn't try anything that was different. There wasn't, it was kind of just like, we'll play it around a bit and hope that something happens. But it didn't look like there was a plan. It didn't look like we had a plan.
Let's talk about that because Alexandra gets her second yellow card in the 72nd minute. Honestly, very warranted. That was a tough tackle. I thought the first yellow was a soft one, but the second one was very, very warranted. The 72nd minute is plenty of time for a team with the power that United have, for a team with the subs that United have, Garcia, Williams, Miyazawa. I mean, to throw all of those threats onto the field and you've got 20 minutes to play, I was genuinely shocked that we weren't going to see a goal from United. But exactly what you said, there was no attacking threat. City went to a 5-back. Fine, that's harder to break down. But it wasn't even that United was in the attacking third, playing around the box and trying to break down that low block. United were fully playing around their back line, passing it around like there was all the time in the world, no care in the world. And that's what infuriated me about how United closed this game, was that it felt like we're not even trying to find the angles here.
There was no urgency. There was no urgency about trying to get a goal back, because once you get one goal back, it gets the wind in your sails and makes them edgy.
But that's exactly it. They just needed one. Just tuck one away and see what can happen. And there was no urgency there.
And there was plenty of time for them to cause City problems. And like you said, they had the attacking power on the bench. Rachel Williams has come up with some clutch goals for us when we've needed it. Didn't give her any service to do anything, so she wasn't going to get us any goals if you don't give her any service. It was all in all disappointing, and I don't know why Hayley Ladd is not playing anymore. That confuses me a lot. I thought she had a really good season last year.
This has been a question for me with Hayley Ladd for many years, because over the course of the past 3 years, she's gone from being a starter to being a sub to being a starter, and now she's a sub again. And it doesn't make sense to me either, especially in this game where was United's midfield? It was nowhere to be found. This is a game specifically where, against a Jill Roord, against, this is a team that you want to dominate the middle of the field against, and they couldn't. And I mean, this might be a great segue to talk about City, because the statistics of this game kind of paint the picture of an even match, pretty even on possession, relatively even on shots, and relatively even on shots and on target. But City was absolutely dominant in this game. And perhaps that just comes down to they had way more dangerous chances than Manchester United did. And they were able to capitalize on the mistakes that United made, but the dangerous opportunities that City created for itself were tenfold what United could do.
Yeah, and I think the City came there and they were just like, free-flowing. There was almost like a free-flowingness to them, and the way their wingers are so threatening, Hemp and Kelly, obviously, big England fan, so like to see them doing well, but not against us. Don't like to see that at all. So, those two in particular were big threats, and Roord has been a really good addition to the City team. They lacked something last year, and I think it was what she's offering now as well in that position is definitely important. I mean, if you take away their front line, nothing about City really screams like wow, to me anyway. But I thought that going forward, they took their chances well, and they were very disciplined as well at the back. You have to say that. I mean, Alex Greenwood has been even since before the World Cup, she was performing well, but since the World Cup, she's really gone on and become super consistent for Manchester City this season as a very important player.
I'd say the same for Alana Kennedy, too, who's a player who I've labeled multiple times as an inconsistent player. She'll play great, but she will have her moments. And she had a wonderful and consistent World Cup, and she's taken that into City. And so their two center backs have truly been holding it down and consistent. And credit where credit is due. That goal by Jill Roord, yes, she was given the time and space by United to let that ball come all the way across her body in the middle of the box. But that's still a tough one to bury. And credit to Lauren Hemp, who, I think that was side netting what she did. That was just absolutely beautiful. And then Bunny Shaw, that was just pure hard work from her to secure that. And then at the end of the game, back to these last 20 minutes when City are down to only 10 players and Steph Houghton comes in the game. I was sitting on my couch like, oh, how did we forget about Steph? And the composure that City had in those moments, that could have been, like we were saying, that could have been an onslaught from United for 20 minutes. And City's composure in those 20 minutes, wherever it came from, probably from those two center backs we were just talking about in the addition of Steph into that back line for the 5-back, it has to be applauded, because that is no small feat, especially against, like we said, the attack of United, who are becoming known for scoring last-minute goals.
And I think also with the crowd too, that you've got 40 odd thousand people there, and to keep them quiet enough where they're like out of the game and not really influencing it very much says a lot about what Manchester City did. And tactically, they had their leaders, their senior figures were better than Manchester United senior figures on the day. Right, they did what they needed to do to secure the victory, and they brought in Steph Houghton, who's obviously a wealth of experience, captain of England for a long time, and of course she knows what to do. She's been in these positions before. They know how to win games, even if they're down to 10 men. And so, you look at Zellum, and she scored the penalty, but then she's given away a sloppy goal, and she's the obvious leader for Man United because she's the captain. And then you look at the other leaders on the pitch. Who are we looking at? Earps. Yeah, maybe, but then no one else really screams it to me. I guess Millie Turner is supposed to be sort of somewhat of a leader, but...
I mean, the funny thing is, if Hayley Ladd was on the pitch, I would have said Hayley Ladd because she is that core for the team.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I watched the Man United versus Everton, the Conti Cup game, and Hayley Ladd played that game, and I thought she was great. But, I don't know what she needs to do to get back in the starting 11. I don't know. Man United finished second in the league last year with Hayley Ladd as their starting 6, right? So why has all of a sudden Hayley Ladd just totally fallen out of favour? It makes no sense to me as a Man United fan.
It makes absolutely no sense to me. And I guess speaking of players who are sitting on the bench, Mary Fowler still sitting on the bench for Manchester City after... Frankly, I thought a really strong World Cup performance. I thought she's had some strong performances for City, and yet she still comes in the dying minutes of the game. I would love to see more playing time from Mary Fowler.
I think she's been playing quite a lot, to be honest. And when I'm looking at it now, I'm thinking, right, well, Chloe Kelly and Lauren Hemp were so good. Where does Fowler fit in there? Mm-hmm. I think for this game, he met... we obviously aren't massive fans of Gareth Taylor on this show, but...
Well, this is like what a good coach can do. If you want to fit a player into your 11, you do. However that is, whether you train them at another position or you change your formation accordingly, and he just doesn't know how to do that. He's got his formation, and you know what? If you also play Bunny Shaw's position, Bunny Shaw's starting, so I guess you're going to have to sit on the bench. That's what it is across the board for him.
I think we got to give him a little bit of credit, though, because they've gone to Old Trafford and won 3-1. So we have to give him some credit, and I know you don't want to, but that's okay.
That's not true at all. I'm here being like, you know what, we got to give City credit. And I was truly watching this as a neutral. I really was. I do feel that you see what City is under the leadership, under the management that they're under, and what could they be otherwise. And I do hate to see a young star that does now seem like she was in a moment in her career where she was ready for more minutes and was ready to have more responsibility on her shoulders, and she isn't given that opportunity to get there. It feels like a step back, but that's truly my only criticism for City this game.
Yeah, she's also young, and she's still...
She's 20 years old. She's young.
She's still learning the game, and... You know what? Manchester City might not be the club for her, but she's getting a good experience in the WSL right now, and she can obviously move on if she's not happy. But I think it's, as a young player, also, you talked about this, not throwing them into the fire straight away. Like, let's bed them in, let's give them time, let's help them adjust, because, she's Australian, and this is a different style of football, this is a different lifestyle. Living in England is totally different. So, I think... Let's see where the rest of the season takes her, and hopefully, she gets some more playing time, and we see the free flow in Mary Fowler that we saw for Australia.
From Manchester and the Manchester Derby to another game that frankly could have been the game of the week, a wild game. West Ham United versus Aston Villa, and Villa took it 3-2 on a last-minute winner from Rachel Daly. There were some worldies in this game, and not just the winner from Rachel Daly. Oh my goodness. Lisa Evans might have just secured the goal of the season in what we thought was the equalizer for West Ham to tie 2-2, but what a game. And bottom of the table clash, these teams were very evenly matched.
We talked about the NWSL final being entertaining, but this was a great advert for the WSL as well. It was a true 6-point battle at the bottom of the league, and two unreal left-footed finishes. You have two volleys that you won't see two better left-footed volleys. I'm telling you that. You have to watch these goals.
They hit those two perfectly. So for those who didn't watch, a wild game it was. West Ham went up first 1-0 on a penalty, debatable, but we won't get into it because it is in the past. Aston Villa equalized just 4 minutes later, and we went into halftime 1-1, and then Villa went up 2-1 in the 50th minute with another great goal by Adriana Leon. West Ham equalized with that incredible goal we just talked about briefly from Lisa Evans, and then Rachel Daly, Razadi, none other, gets the game winner in a goal that was almost against the run of play, but it had the classic flow. West Ham were dominant, I thought, in the beginning. Villa came out incredibly slow to the point where I was very worried about them. And West Ham were dominant, frankly, until Villa equalized. And the moment Villa equalized at 1-1, everything shifted and the momentum went to Villa. And Villa, I feel like, really grew into this game. Kenza Dali drove Villa's attack in every single way. And Adriana Leon, who's been in and out of the starting lineup for Aston Villa and has mainly been a sub, I think has really found a good place in this squad, which I'm really excited about. Adriana Leon, I think, is one of the most underrated Canadian internationals, and people get on her for not being consistent. But all I've seen so far this season, is consistency from her.
Yeah, I don't think United was the club for her. It wasn't the right fit in any way, shape or form. She didn't get enough time. She wasn't scoring enough goals for us. And maybe those two just go hand in hand. She needs more time to score goals, but we need her to score goals in less time, so it wasn't really working out. But this move is a good move for her because Aston Villa seems to fit her style of play, and I think she's found herself a home there. Now, if she can start scoring goals, then Aston Villa are going to look really threatening, right? Because they'll have Rachel Daly, Leon, and Ebony Salmon, which is a scary trio if they can score goals, right?
But I mean, speaking of players who aren't starting, like Hayley Ladd, and you wonder why they're not starting, Ebony Salmon, we have to spend a moment on her because Ebony Salmon is a player that I feel like has not found a team yet that she is at home and knows how to highlight her skills and help her develop. And I really thought Aston Villa would be a good home for her, but she's been bouncing around to many teams and it hasn't really seemed to fit at all. And frankly, she came in on the second half on the wing and she disappeared.
Well, she's not a winger, she's a striker. And we said this before, maybe having Rachel Daly everywhere she goes. I mean, Daly was with her at Houston.
And then when Daly left, Salmon was shining.
Yeah, she was playing well, and then now she's come to Villa, and it's like, well, you're sort of still in the shadows of Rachel Daly here because you're not going to be the first choice striker. She is warranted, and so she's kind of having to fulfill a role which is not her natural role, and she's getting lost, and it's not going to get the best out of Ebony Salmon because Ebony Salmon's a forward. And it seems like square peg, round hole to me in that instance. And, it might not work out for her at Villa. This Villa might not be the club for her, but we'll see. Unless they're going to play two strikers together. And I don't even know if that's going to work, to be honest. But she scored 2 goals last weekend, which you would have thought, okay, she's scored 2 goals. Give her an opportunity up front. But I guess that Carla Ward's thinking is not that, and warranted because Rachel Daly scored a screamer of a winner.
All right, moving on. Let's quickly touch on a few more games. We're gonna try to do these more rapid fire. Let's go Brighton versus Arsenal. Arsenal took it 3-0. This is Arsenal's first clean sheet of the season, and for me, frankly, this was a strong performance from Arsenal. They were way more dominant than the scoreline indicated, and tough one for Brighton, coming off of a couple really good results, and they came up against Arsenal that were flying.
Yeah, and I think the key for this game is that in front of a sold-out stadium, which is big credit to Brighton because last season they were playing in front of not many fans and they weren't playing very well. But this season, they're doing really well, and they've surprised teams. And Arsenal's key for me for winning this game was to score early, and they scored early, and it kind of shifted the belief a little bit, and shifted Arsenal's belief, but it also shifted a little bit of Brighton's belief, because against United they went ahead twice, right, and they beat City 1-0. So like these are big results for them, but based on confidence of scoring first or not conceding any goals. Whereas Arsenal, once Arsenal scored, it kind of felt like this was going to be an uphill battle for Brighton, partly because they weren't defending very well. They kept giving the ball away, and the first goal was a prime example of that, where they didn't clear it. And Blackstenius whiffed on the first shot massively, but then she managed to get her composure and eventually score. So I think that was important to set the tempo and set the tone for Arsenal. And we talked about them last week being incredibly good up front, and just to, like, you know, as much as it pains me to watch Russo play for Arsenal, she fits in well to the system, and they
I was going to say that might have been her best game of the season so far with Arsenal.
Yeah, it's free-flowing attacking, and having Mead back is obviously great to see and great to watch her. You know, she's going to get better and better. This is not even Beth Mead at her best yet. And they still have Miedemars to come back. You know, you said this to me before, you think this might be Miedemars last year, but where are you going to put your one of your legendary players who's a goal-scoring machine? Are you not going to, like, at least give her the opportunity to come back and see where it can go? I mean, you've brought Russo in for a reason, granted, but I think Miedemar also brings a lot to the game in terms of her vision and distribution. And so it's going to be interesting when she does return, because they're scoring goals for fun at the moment.
From Brighton Arsenal over to Spurs versus Leicester City. Middle to top of the table, dare I say, clash that ended in a 1-1 draw. This was a great game, I thought, Amy.
Yeah, this was a really entertaining game as well. I really enjoyed watching this game, and I thought that both teams were really, really going for it. And there was goal line clearances, there was good goals, there was action at either end, posts, crossbars, everything. Yeah, it was really good, and some really good goalkeeping too. I mean, I criticised Leipzig last week a little bit, but I still think she's a very good goalkeeper, which is why I was kind of critical of her, because she's come into the league and she was really, really good last season, and I think that she'll maintain that, but she just had an off week last week. But this week she was amazing. She was unreal. There was like one period of possession where it was Nars. She missed a sitter, and then she was just a tap in. She should have scored, but Leipzig made two like top class saves, and that was in like the 28th minute. And she kind of kept Leicester in the game there. And I think that the combination of like Bizet and Thomas up front is really clicking. Thomas's through ball for Bizet for the goal was really, really special. It was a nice ball, so weighted so well that Bizet could just hit it first time into the corner. And I think, we're seeing a new level of Martha Thomas that we didn't see at Man United, which is nice to see.
I will say, I mean, just on the goalkeepers, incredibly exciting games across the board all weekend. Great goalkeeping too across the board all weekend. I mean, flashing back to just West Ham Villa there, it was a wild battle between Mackenzie Arnold and Van Domsler. It just great goalkeeping across the board, I thought, this past weekend. And the second to last game, Everton versus Bristol City, another draw, 2-2. The other bottom of the table clash. Oh my goodness. A draw at the bottom of the table. How did you find this game, Amy?
Well, first of all, I could barely watch the game because there was so much rain on the camera. But again, I can't knock it.
You can't blame it because it's free.
Yeah, it was the FA player. I mean, I just really want somebody to get a cover for the camera for the FA players. They have one, but the poor guy who was running the camera was wiping it like constantly. So it was a struggle to see football for a lot of the period of the first half. But I thought this game was also really entertaining. I don't think Bristol City created a lot, but they created enough to score 2 goals. Everton were the better team. I would definitely say that. I think that Everton will be disappointed that they didn't win the game. I think they needed the points. Obviously, both teams needed the points, but I think Everton needed the points more to sort of like get them away from the relegation zone. But Yeah.
Especially going up so early. You go up in the first 5 minutes and you really do think that the game is yours. I think it was the first 5. Maybe it was the first 6. It doesn't matter. And for them to also concede right before going into halftime, the whole thing, I think they'll be walking away thinking they could have had a few things back.
Yeah, I mean, the Piemonte's goal was persistence. She scored off a rebound of her own shot. And then Bristol City kind of had like a little moment before the half where they pushed a little to try and get an equaliser. But it was a really good finish for their goal, a nicely taken goal, rocket of a finish for the equaliser. And then Everton obviously came out and for the second goal it was a little bit of a crazy sequence. They took a short corner, and the cross went directly and hit the crossbar and down. So whoever was there, kind of all they needed to do was tap it in, but instead of tapping it in, they smashed it against the underside of the bar, and it came back out, and eventually they scored. But it seemed like it would be easier to just score the tap in rather than the worldie of a strike.
What's that game that they make you play when you're young? Like Power and Precision
Power
or something like that?
You play it. Yeah,
Power and Finesse, yeah.
Power and Finesse.
For those of you listening, Power and Finesse is exactly as it sounds. You take a shot from far out and then you run in and you place the other one. And that's the whole game. That's the whole drill. I agree. I think Everton will want this one back, but it was another just battle and fun game. And finally, Chelsea took down Liverpool 5-1. There was a small piece of me that thought, on their best day, I think Liverpool could do something. Maybe a point or something like that. That's not what happened. Chelsea were absolutely flying. Lauren James scored a hat trick. And that's kind of the story of this game.
Yeah, I mean, it was a dominant Chelsea performance after the half. They went in 2-1 up at half-time. I'm going to shout out Aggie Beaver-Jones again because I shouted her out last week and she scored again this week. So, young player to watch. And I'm hoping that eventually she's going to get a senior cap for England because I think she's going to be a one for the future for us. But yeah, LJ was on fire. Like the finish, the left-footed finish across the keeper was an absolute rocket for the second goal that she scored. So, she's super exciting and we all love to watch her play. And it was a convincing win for Chelsea. But you were right to feel like Liverpool could have caused them an upset. They've been really consistent this season, and last season Liverpool beat Chelsea. So it's not like totally like in fairyland that they could beat them.
No, on another day, on a different day, perhaps. And maybe the next time these two teams see each other at Liverpool, that's what we'll get. Let's go around the world. Around the world, around the world.
We're going to go to Italy first. Roma are the only Italian team left in the Champions League, but they are holding it down in the number 1 spot in the standings at home still. However, sitting just 3 points ahead of Juventus, Roma is taking on number 3 Fiorentina on Sunday this coming weekend. They will have just 2 days between their Wednesday Champions League match and their important Sunday league match. Can they pull off both wins?
Over to Champions League. Group stages have kicked off with a bang. Oh my, these games were wild, and we are putting it here because we didn't have time to fully get into it in the episode, but if you want to plug your ears for spoilers, go watch some of these games. We highly recommend. Go watch Bayern vs. Roma, Real Madrid vs. Chelsea, or Häcken vs. Paris FC. Now, on to the results. Match day 1 of group stages did not disappoint. Upsets included both Paris teams going down. Häcken took down Paris FC 2-1, and Ajax beat PSG 2-0. Bayern and Roma drew 2-2, along with Real Madrid and Chelsea. Match day 2 is today, Wednesday, when this episode drops, so head to DAZN on YouTube so you can watch for free.
And off to Spain. Atletico Madrid beat Madrid CFF 4-1 to catapult themselves 1 point above Madrid CFF in the standings. But the headline was a top-of-the-table clash between Barcelona and Real Madrid, El Clasico, number 1 versus number 2, and Barcelona put on a show, winning 5-0 with goals from 5 different goal scorers.
Have you checked out Total Football Analysis yet? TotalFootballAnalysis.com provides researched analysis on loads of football, including the women's game. Want all the stats in one place instead of drowning in a mountain of tabs? Want to explore key matchups and the tactics from both teams? Total Football Analysis provides the stats and analysis to help you learn more about the beautiful game. We have a special discount for listeners of the Women's Soccer Show. At checkout, type WOSO10 to get a full year for just €10. That's €40 of the yearly subscription. Head over to totalfootballanalysis.com and type WOSO10 at checkout.
From one side of the pond to the other, and over to the United States to talk a couple things, one club and one country. And before we get into country, we have to touch on the news that came out of New York, New Jersey, Gotham FC. News, I don't know what to call it. Essentially, Gotham won the championship. You all listened to us talk about it last week. And thus ensued just the worst management of a post-championship win that I think any of us maybe have ever seen, in which Gotham announced that they were not going to hold any type of celebration for the fans, for the fan base, for Cloud9, for the season ticket holders, and instead they were just going to go to the Empire State Building. On top of this, I'll say from a media perspective, they sent an email at 1 a.m. Eastern for a 9 a.m. media event in person. That's not helpful for any media to cover it. And there was a lot of backlash. A lot of fans and season ticket holders and Cloud9 were rightfully very upset by this. I personally feel so bad for Cloud9, and we can get into that. Cloud9 is a supporters group, for those of you who don't know. And so then Gotham backpedaled, they apologized, and then they created a little event that was happening on Monday. But we just have to talk about this because they really missed a big opportunity here, Amy.
Well, they only acknowledged that they'd missed an opportunity when they were called out by Meg Lynan in The Athletic. They didn't really do anything until then. And then it was like, okay, well, you've really failed your fans. You failed your fans hugely here because those are the people who've come to watch you week in, week out. Those are the people in Cloud9 who were at Rutgers University when no one else was there supporting you. And instead, you've taken the trophy to the stock market. I mean, no one really cares about that, to be honest. That's really poor marketing of a club that screams that we don't expect to win anything. That's what that is. And they weren't prepared for us to win. And this is what's happened. It's all reactive instead of proactive. And it's frustrating for all of us who are fans to be sent an email and being like, okay, well, come at 6:30 on a Monday night to Red Bull Arena in New Jersey, when I live in New York, and take off work to come here. It was just so poorly done, and it was an afterthought. It was an afterthought.
It was an afterthought. So there's two sides to this. There's the fan side where it's just so, I don't even know, out of touch. So, I mean, we know that to build a brand and to build a team that people around the world or people in the area want to invest in, you have to go into the community. And the Gotham players have a really nice bond with their fans. So there's two sides to this, and I wanted to get into that side because there's that fan side where the Gotham front office has completely disregarded the fans and how important they are to this team. And second of all, they've missed an opportunity to go out and bring in the new fans that came along for maybe the last game, maybe the last two games, because they were like, oh, wow, New York's in the championship. And then they're starting to feel a connection to the team. They missed that opportunity, too, to bring in new people, bring them into the fold. And it's two things, and they've absolutely messed them both up. And both are they're just horrific for different reasons. So let's start with the fans because, I mean, you mentioned Cloud9 going out to Rutgers. You mentioned, I mean, you and everybody, on the soccer team that we played on together, going out every single day to Red Bull Arena. And for Gotham FC to not thank the fans, to not show appreciation, I'm not a season ticket holder, but it would have been enough for me to say, I'm not renewing anymore.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of people who are not renewed anymore. I will say that. I think that Yael has done a lot of good things. Yael Averbush, the GM for Gotham, has done a lot of good things. And there's also a lot of bad things. And the bad things are very bad. And they continue to be very bad. And they need to hire marketing departments who understand fans' connection to the game. Because this is what's missing, and they continue to miss this time and time again. You're not going to link this team to the fans by doing what you're doing currently. It's not working. And actually, you're making it worse because of what you just did.
You're alienating the people who were already supporting you.
Yeah, and you're losing them. You're losing those fans too. You're going to lose those season ticket holders. So you're really making a mess of the marketing and advertising, and the community outreach part of the club is hugely important, because what do all fans want? A connection to their football club. This is why people love football. This is why we fall in love with football, is the connection to the football club. And bringing in people who understand that and how important that is. And it's not just a money machine to make money and jump on women's sport because this is the new thing and this is what's going to make people money. That's not it. That's not it. You have to start at the heart of the football team, and it's your fans.
Yeah. I mean, how do you think San Diego has been able to fill a stadium in their second year in this league, and they're selling out almost all of their games? It's the fans. It's that they went into the community, and that's where they started. And I mean, Gotham have yet to figure out how to do that, and it's incredibly disappointing. I'm so heartbroken for all of Cloud9. A lot of these fans spent their time, their hard-earned money to fly all the way across the country just to be there supporting Gotham in that stadium in San Diego. And for them to come back and not have any type of appreciation or ceremony or, whatever, it's just, it's unheard of. And what they did on Monday, what you referenced, where you have an event, it's last minute, it's for the season ticket holders in Cloud9, but it's on a Monday of a holiday week. Most of the players are out of town already anyways. They're not in market anymore, and it's just lackluster. And so, I mean, there's that side of it, and now let's transition to the side of it where this was a moment where they could have brought new people into the fold. And I, like you, think the GM, Yael Everbuch, has done an amazing job in the product that she put on the field. But in hiring somebody for marketing, she has not. And they talk a lot about how they want Gotham to be a worldwide brand, a global brand, and that, now they're going to be known for this style of play. Gotham's going to be synonymous with this, and they should think about how they can compete with, top teams in the world. Listen, if you want to be a worldwide brand, that's great, but you have to start here in this community, and you have to know how to bring new fans in. And you can't do what Angel City do. You're not Angel City. You're not going to throw Hollywood money and Hollywood stars at everybody and say, buy our merch. You have to start in New York, and there's a lot there. And for them to not capitalize on this opportunity, I've talked to so many people who said that they were new fans who wanted to be a part of it after the final, and they just weren't. That's all lost. You can never get that moment back. Moving on from NWSL, Gotham, hopefully that's the last negative stuff we have to talk about until the draft and all of the trade news happens. Moving on from that, let's talk international. So I'm sorry for all you English fans, because the Lionesses roster has not been released yet at the time that we are recording. So we can't talk about it right now. And that's just how the cookie crumbles, unfortunately. But fortunately for all you U.S. fans, and don't turn this off, England fans, this is going to be worth listening to, because we're going to talk the new U.S. women's national team roster that was announced for these upcoming friendlies. And it's a big one. It's a big change. This is the first roster that Emma Hayes has been involved in selecting. And there's a lot of pieces we need to talk through, because there's a lot of first-time call-ups here and a lot of long-standing call-ups that are not on this list.
Yeah, I think it's slightly weird that Emma Hayes has been involved, considering she's still, currently very, very much part of Chelsea Football Club. But
I mean, I can shed some light on that, because she frankly just sounds like the busiest woman in the world. On the press conference about this, a lot of questions were about Emma Hayes. Unfortunately, not a lot of questions were about players, which I was disappointed in. A lot of English journalists who I'd never seen before on U.S. press conferences popping in to ask about Emma Hayes. But a lot of what was said was that U.S. Soccer and Twyla Kilgore, the interim head coach, are in touch with Emma Hayes. They try not to bother her unless needed, but that Emma Hayes has a pulse on what's going on, is following the teams, is following the players, has been following the NWSL closely, and that she might even make an appearance at camp in the international window. So she truly is the busiest woman around. They were not they explicitly didn't go into detail about what her involvement was. So we can take that as we will.
Yeah, I mean, and as a Chelsea player, that also might feel a little bit weird to see your current manager swanning off already to their new position. Not one part of me feels like Emma Hayes is not committed to Chelsea anymore. I don't feel that way at all. But I just feel like for the optics of it and how it looks to her players, it could feel a little bit like she's abandoning them, leaving them, and for somebody who probably wants to go out on a high with Chelsea, which would be to win the Champions League, I would say that as much focus as she can maintain with Chelsea is best for them as a squad. Anyway, let's go back to the US roster because we want to talk about that.
Let's talk notable makes and notable misses, and maybe let's start with notable misses because I want to just say this up top because actually maybe this will save us a lot of time talking about the misses. It was made very clear on the press conference that players who were left off of this friendlies roster and this camp are not out of selection. This specific selection was done because Emma Hayes wanted evaluations on players who she hadn't seen in the international camp as much or at all. So this is all to say, it seems as if this camp is being used to say, everybody we know what you can contribute, you're off to the side. Let's bring in some new people. Let's see what else we have here.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that as well. I think that this is an opportunity to get some fresh players in. I think that, Alyssa Nair not being in there is not that much of a big deal because I think that she's still the number one choice for the US. She's, in my opinion, not done anything wrong when she's played for the US at all. So I don't think that she would be dropped unless, someone here that's been selected, a Jane Campbell, NWSL Goalkeeper of the Year, unless she's coming in really strong, which she is off the back of a good season. So she could push Nair a little bit, but I still think that Nair will be the first choice keeper. And then you look at, you're missing your Morgans. Obviously, it looks a little bit different without Rapinoe in there because she's retired now. And, your senior players...
Becky Sauerbrunn, Crystal Dunn.
Crystal Dunn... There's a little bit of a surprise to me that she's not on here, but I still feel like there's enough experience there, you would say. I mean, Lindsay Horan's still in there. I guess they had to keep somebody who was, she's the most senior player on that team now. Abby Dolkemper coming back in. She's also got tons of experience and was out injured, so that's exciting to have her back because I think she's a super talented centre-back. And then... there's obviously some young, fresh faces in there, which we could talk about, the ones that did make it. And for me, the exciting ones are obviously Nyswanger, Rookie of the Year. She's a Gotham player, so really happy that she's got a call up, even though it says she's selected as a midfielder. Which when I read the pre-game from Twyla, she said that she'd worked with Nyswanger at youth level and under 23s, and she'd played a 6 before, so maybe they're going to see her in a 6.
You took the words out of my mouth here. Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like that's the most interesting one, the first one I wanted to talk about too, Jenna Nyswanger, because she was Rookie of the Year out at outside back, and she was called up as a midfielder, like you said. And I also find that interesting that Twyla said she had coached Nyswanger as at the 6, and they also made it clear that they're looking for versatility. They're looking for players who can be, counted on in multiple positions, especially with the Olympics coming up with a smaller roster. You need that versatility. And that could be interesting. It also said to me, hey, maybe there's going to be a formation shift if we're calling up that many midfielders, and potentially Jenna Nyswanger could be seen on maybe an outside midfield type role. I don't know. I would be curious to see how she plays at the 6. It would be fun to see her there. Of course, having only seen her at the outside back position.
You've got a couple of options there at 6, though, haven't you? You've got Nyswanger, you've got Coffee, you've also got Sonnet, because Sonnet's done a really good job at the 6 for you guys when she played in the World Cup, and she's also been playing there for OL Reign. Harvey put her in that position, and she's been doing a good job there. So I think you've got some good, solid options at 6. Obviously, with the retirement of Ertz, that leaves that position wide open for somebody to come in and take it and make it their own.
I'm really excited to see Sam Coffey get more minutes, hopefully. Corbin Albert called up as a midfielder, her first call up. She's a young player playing for PSG right now. It'll be interesting to see really who of these first time call ups is going to get minutes, if any, in a game. Generally speaking, with the U.S., first time call ups rarely see the field in their first camp. And if they do, it's not for very many minutes. Perhaps this could change just because of the amount of youth that's in this roster. It's basically all youth. So a lot of shifts happening at the U.S. And specifically, I want to point to almost like the cultural shifts, which we'll start there with some first-time call-ups might see the field in their first ever camp, which is historically just unheard of in a team that's full of stars and veterans that you have to really earn your way into. And it was really emphasized, too, by Twyla Kilgore in this past press conference that more than ever, players are going to play their way in and out of these rosters based on performance alone. And the U.S. has gotten a lot of criticism, I think specifically from English people in my life, about calling players up who haven't played in club in a while, who aren't fit, who haven't showcased that they should be in camp. And it seems really that is no longer.
Yeah, no, this is a good sign for the US. I think that, like you said, it's a culture shift. It's a change in vision. It's a new direction to where they want to go. It's the beginning of the Emma Hayes era before Emma Hayes has even stepped in. She's already putting her footprint on it. And this is what she's setting forth as going to be her way or the highway, basically. This is how we're going to do it. We're going to give you the opportunity to play yourself in, play consistently well. You play. If you don't play, you're not going to be in the starting 11 or you're not even going to be in the squad. So I think...
And I'd be shocked if Emma Hayes did it any other way. That's very Emma Hayes.
Yeah, it is. And I think me and you have had a little bit of a discussion about this as well, about how I did say, I touched on it briefly in a previous episode about how international football is very different to coach than club football, because Emma Hayes can't just go out and buy anybody. If things aren't going well, you're going to have to find a way to solve it with the people you have at your disposal for selection. So it's not...
And that's exactly what I'm excited to watch her do.
Yeah, she can't just go and buy a Sam Kerr. You can't.
She can't, but you know what she can do is she can develop players. And I think one of the things Emma Hayes is most known for is her ability to nurture and develop talent. And there's no lack of talent in the U.S., but there's certainly some talent that needs to be nurtured the correct way. And I'm very excited to see these players develop under the likes of Emma Hayes. And beyond that, I think I've said it before, but I'll say it again. Like, what I'm most excited for is Emma Hayes to have influence on not just the senior national team, but the rest of all of U.S. soccer, which it's fundamentally broken. This system is broken. You look at the U23 results, they're abysmal. And we've talked about how this system is broken in a lot of different ways, but it's specifically very broken in terms of player development and coaching, and it needs a shift, and Emma Hayes will bring that. All right, everybody, do not forget WSL this coming weekend, Champions League today, Wednesday, when this episode drops. There's too much to talk about, so we didn't even get to preview anything, but we'll be back next week to talk about it all. So for us here at the Women's Soccer Show, I've been Sarah.
I've been Amy.
Thanks, everybody. I mean, Gotham have yet to figure out how to do that, and it's incredibly disappointing. I'm so heartbroken for all of Cloud9. I have to kill an ant. Hang on. Okay. Thank you. Sorry. What did I say? I'm heartbroken for all of Cloud9. Oh, it's not dead. Hang on.
It's just an ant. You'll be all right.
Yeah, but where are the other ants?
Keep this in the pod.
Die.
Mike, if you're listening, don't cut this out.
No. Okay, wait. It's dead in my sweatshirt. Hang on.
This podcast was edited by Monkey Hill Media. Visit monkeyhillmedia.com for more information.